All right, we're live. Yeah, so I'm on the road right now and I'm in Sacramento and my view is the state capitol here. And so I told my husband this morning, I'm like, I wonder if I'm going to see any protests. Because isn't that typically where, people have protests?
Yes, you would see protests at the Capitol. I love Sacramento. I love California. My hair looks amazing in California.
Yes,
I live in Georgia where it's like 100% humidity all the time. And this is like a lot of product to just tame it a little.
I know the feeling. I mean, some days I come in with big hair, but so I'm in town going to see a couple of our clients and I'm really excited. So we're going to have a good time and get to take them out to dinner and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So,
and you call this working?
Yes, that's what she does to pass off as work, right?
Well, it's cool because I get to go to, I'm in Sacramento today. Tomorrow I'm going to be in Petaluma. And then Friday I get to be in San Luis Obispo. I know, it's tough.
Nice.
Well, she's a hustler. She's a hustler. She's working.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and do our intros and get us started, okay? So happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to the Dog Gurus live discussion. Thank you for watching and listening. If you are catching this live, please say hello and write in the chat any questions or any comments that you want. We love the interaction. So the Dog Gurus provides expert business guidance to pet care business owners and staff. Now, we've helped thousands of pet care businesses thrive with training in leadership, operations, finances, safety skills, and more. Our content has nearly 500 on-demand video modules and done-for-you tools. Amber, I asked Amy, our LMS administrator, how many videos do we have? 487 videos, and that doesn't even count all of our PDFs and downloads, things like that. Is that crazy?
That is crazy. Enough for a lifetime.
Enough for a lifetime. So we really, when you come and get education from us, you are really getting a master's degree in how to operate pet care business. So our modules include practical systems to scale efficiency and monthly live coaching calls with experts. So no matter where you're at in your business, we have coaching and resources to help you reach your goals. And I just want to call out that every coach on the team has owned and operated their own facility, which makes the Dog Gurus a very unique resource in the industry. So I'm Shantae Marquez, joined with Amber Burkhalter and two very special guests who are not only longtime friends of the Dog Gurus, but I can also say my friends too, Jeff Adney and Tim Parsons from TWC Terwisscha Construction. So guys, why don't you go ahead and jump in and give us a quick little intro of what your roles are at Terwisscha Construction.
Go ahead, Tim.
All right, man. I'll go first. Tim Parsons. So I'm the lead architect with Terwisscha Construction. Been doing architecture for about 30 years. Let's just say that it's been that long. Enjoyable though. Love my job. Great fun, especially in this industry where we focus on animal care. So previously did some work with churches and cities, which was fun in its own way. But this is truly more enjoyable because there's just really a sense of passion with our clients and with their clients. And us, as a company, our motto is enhancing lives through structure. We try to live that out every day by creating the dreams of all of these pet parents, try to design and build a facility to fit their needs and to match their dreams. That's me.
I love that.
Awesome. So Jeff Adney, also on the TWC team, but on the construction side, my goal is to have more fun than Shantae does when she's on the road. So it's a full-time job. So no, I oversee the boarding and daycare market. So kind of drive the business development on that side and actually get my fingers on most of the projects. I grew up in the epoxy coatings world. That's how I fell into the animal care industry. Doing epoxy coating, similar type coatings for the past 25 years. TWC was actually my number one client, and regretfully, they asked me to join them one day. So regretfully for them, not for me.
They've been kicking themselves ever since, right?
Right.
All right. Well, today we're going to dive into how your facility's floor plan and design can do more than just look good. It really can attract your ideal clients, optimize your workspace, and help your team operate at peak efficiency. Now, Tim has brought a few show and tell items today, so we're going to actually be able to explore some real examples of boarding and daycare layouts that improve flow, safety, and overall pet and client experience. So whether you're building a new facility or reimagining your current space, listen up, because these tips are going to help you design with both beauty and function in mind. So let's start out with why floor plans and design matter. Like, what benefits is it to really hire professionals that know the industry in and out, and not just some general contractor?
Well, Shante, great question. Partially the reason, to use somebody that's done this multiple times is, learn from our mistakes, because we've made them over and over, but then we learn, and then we don't make that mistake again. Hopefully it's something pretty minor, like, you know what, that's really a bad sheen on that paint, let's fix that. Hopefully it's not something like our drains are in the wrong spot, or this, these dog run panels don't really function properly. So those things, let's not worry about that. Let's focus on the big picture, the big design. So what we do is, we meet with clients, we figure out what are all these spaces that they want, what is the capacity, are we doing indoor play, outdoor play, and really have to set up all of these relationships and adjacencies so that they just make sense. There's safety of the staff, yes. There's the workflow, as far as, are we walking way to the back to do something and then coming to the front like multiple times a day? That's a waste of time, definitely. When people come into the facility, what is their experience like? Are they walking in the door with, they've got a dog, they maybe have two, they have half their belongings that they thought they'd bring with. It's like, where did those go? Well, maybe they shouldn't go away in the back, because you have to dump them back there and then bring the dog back up to the front. Maybe there's cubbies by the front door. Maybe that makes the most sense. You work in more of a centralized scenario. Or maybe you sprinkle the cubbies out throughout the facility because your concept is more play groups. So we've got this group of dogs, here's your belongings. Oh, and what do you know? You've got your own exercise yard, because we know that you all get along well together. And now we've got 6 of these. So maybe that's how your layout is. But maybe you can only afford 2 in the beginning. So let's do 2. But let's design with the future in mind. Hey, we're not going to put like laundry and your electrical panels in that back wall, because that's where future links are going to go. So let's think about that early on. It's much better to make these decisions on paper or on the computer than once you started construction.
Yeah, one of the things that I did, and I was like my own GC when I first started my facility. So it was very much, build as you go. But I had my enclosures ordered in a line, and I was like, oh, I'll just put them face to face with each other across. And they were glass. And then that was like my first 10 enclosures that I ordered. And then after that, I learned real quick, do not order all glass. Like, I was thinking, oh, that's what, it looks pretty, it's good. What I realized is that creates a lot of extra noise that's unnecessary. So it's things like this that when you're going into in the industry, you don't actually know, because if you haven't worked in the industry before, there's little tips and things that can just make flow of operations a lot smoother for you when you work with experts. Yeah. Amber, did you have anything like that you wish,
I have a little bit of a different experience, because I've worked in the industry since I was 16. So I knew things like don't have dogs facing each other, right? Like that's typically, or don't have to walk past every single enclosure. I did mess up my drains. So we were also our own general contractor in the beginning. I was my own general contractor in the beginning, and we put the drains in and poured the concrete, and for whatever reason, didn't think that, the floor needs to slope to the drains. That's slightly helpful when you're trying to use drains. We figured that out after the concrete died. Of course, it's never like before you spend $1 bazillion. So that all had to come back out. I have hundreds of mistakes. I think using someone who has experience in a group that has experience, you can avoid so many mistakes. And some of them are really costly. Some of them, like you said, is just the wrong color paint. But, some of them is like, oh, fabulous, we poured the concrete wrong,
Yeah. And that's a great topic though, because, drains, that's something that comes up a lot. It's like, if you're building new, then you kind of like, hey, where do we want the drains? Yeah. And you figure it out and you design it. Maybe it's trench drains, maybe it's floor drains, maybe it's, but maybe you're going into a tenant improvement space, and maybe there's just like a bathroom in the front or in the back. That's kind of common, these retail spaces. Mm-hmm. So then maybe think about, do I have to cut up all this concrete and put all this plumbing? Is there a way around that? And maybe there is, maybe you go with like the elevated runs where the piping happens underneath. Jeff had fun installing like 30 of those in a room, and I gave him like an extra inch once. Or maybe it's like more of like a wet dry vac system where it's like you just pick up solids and then you do the wet dry kind of a thing, and you save the cost of the drains, like as an option. Jeff, did you want to touch on that design error that I made?
How long do we have?
Yeah.
We have 20 minutes remaining, Jeff.
Yeah. So, but it was interesting, right? So it, you know, we got there, and to Tim's point, like we learned a lot. Like, okay, where do those pipes need to go? You know, Tim's thinking logically, like, yeah, let's put the when it finally pipes, put that drain in the back. Whereas to truly plumb it properly, we needed to run it in the front, and then having to do all the piping before you actually laid the kennels. So it's one of those, he's looking at it from the design side and understanding that piece. I'm coming to it from the install side going, oh, goodness gracious. How do we make this work? And we did, we got it figured out collaboratively, but you know, there are a lot of things, to your point, Tim, like drains are a big expense. And, you know, like you ran into, Amber, when you go into a tenant improvement space, you know, there's no slope. So what are you doing? You're just cutting out all the concrete and then resloping, where some of these other systems is a lot more cost effective. And if it's let's call it a startup, and you're only in there for 5 or 10 years, the easier you can turn that space over back to the landlord, the happier he's going to be versus a bunch of drains in there. So,
Yeah.
Well, let's do some of that show and tell. So let's look at some of these floor plans and designs that you have to showcase. So I'm going to go ahead and share your screen here.
And do I get to point out the mistakes, Tim, or are you going to do that?
Well, Shantae, if you could just put him on mute on occasion.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah. So, you know, this first one, I was just going to say, just kind of like, you know, when you're thinking about your design, kind of in the top left there, it's just a rough sketch. It's just thinking about, you know, what's the most efficient way in this particular design. Obviously, you're going to come in the front door, some sort of reception, bathroom, office, maybe food prep, and then a couple of wings off to the side. We're just, you know, just kennels. This was just a real basic design, heads up. You know, or entry level, I should say. Bottom right is kind of what it turns into, more of a developed, you know, architectural drawing. It's a little bit crazy what the cities want in terms of, you know, drawings, a little more extensive than maybe what you're assuming. So just reach out to somebody that does some work in the industry so you get a good understanding of what's required. And then the top corner, just a little picture of what a rendering might look like of that space. It just kind of helps you visualize it before you actually build it. And then if you just want to scroll through, Shantae, I've got it.
I think you have to scroll because I don't have it on your end. I can just, there we go. Perfect.
There we go. Awesome. Just an example of a real small little facility out in California. We've got a reception area, and then the dogs really don't go beyond there. So your staff is required to kind of do the meet and greet, bring the animals back into holding. And then we've got a play area back here. A little bit of grooming also, but just kind of want to showcase that also. This is about 1,000 square feet with about 12 dogs. Kind of that ratio seems to follow with a lot of these designs that I was going to show.
So,
here's another.
That was Long Beach. So.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. Space is a premium in Long Beach.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Cause I was wondering, okay. Cause it must've been in a shopping center or like a strip mall. Was that where it was?
I think it was like a 10-story multi.
Oh, it was so they're building a lot of all the new apartments in downtown Long Beach all have retail space at the bottom. Mm-hmm. So it must have been, and it's really smart because they take the pets, right? So it's a good business model.
The occupants of that whole building in theory could
exactly
handy. So now we're getting a little bit bigger. I think this is Minnesota, South Dakota, maybe, so that the space is a little bit easier to come by. But this was kind of the, I mentioned earlier about kind of that play group concept. They like the idea of putting groups of dogs together, and then each one has their own outdoor play area. It's kind of nice in that also maybe the off season or slow days, you might put all the dogs in 1 or 2 rooms and not have to like heat, cool, clean, all of that for the other 2 spaces. So a little bit more efficient to do that. We do have an exercise area here, and this whole line represents kind of, flexible fencing so that you could change the shape and dimension of the indoor play area if you wanted. just another kind of showing a rendering of what it could look like. Nice little 3D view. It kind of helps you, make decisions as far as where these spaces are, how do they connect. Got some cages in this space and then some runs in the back. And again, little cubbies kind of along the way, kind of a drop and go as you bring the particular dog back to their space.
Hey, Tim, can you go back to that for a second? So on the top there, you've got 4,350 square feet, 56 dogs. So what are you talking about on the, is that just overnight boarding? Is that boarding and daycare? Because I think that's the challenge a lot of people have, is trying to figure out how big of a space they want for the number of dogs that they're bringing in.
Yeah, that's a good question, Jeff. So in this scenario, this was just boarding. There wasn't any indoor play designed for here. They did have a huge, phase 2 was actually going to be kind of a huge outdoor play area here. And then they thought they might decrease some of the holding space. But at this point, this was just boarding at initial design.
Okay.
Here's kind of a blend. We've got some boarding and some play. And one thing I kind of want to point out here in terms of flow, it's like you're all going to come in the front door, but maybe you just do a drop off just for play. And that's sort of what their role is at that time. Otherwise, coming back through here into the larger area, or maybe you're heading straight back into boarding. So try to make that, that central core to some degree is really where the money is, like making sure people can get to where they want to get. Like if you had a grooming, for instance, you wouldn't want to go through boarding or daycare to get to grooming. Ideally, you'd have it accessed right off that front area. The other thing kind of interesting here is kind of showcasing that, when all of these products are unfolded, it's where the animals could, either stay or it's nap time, or fold them all against the wall to really maximize your floor area. Here, kind of that future concept. So the yellow kind of represents what the phase 1 is. That's the initial build. And then maybe you kind of mirror that on the opposite side, just for a real efficient way to just really increase your capacity. But construction wise, if it's set up, you can kind of see this steel frame right here, kind of like build now with expansion in mind.
And talk about the middle of that, Tim. That wasn't necessarily finished, right? It was more open roof.
Yeah, exactly. It's unconditioned space. So I referenced the size here as being conditioned, but then the roof it's just a shelter. So it's like for the elements, for shade, for rain, so you can still utilize that area. We've got a few projects, Jeff. I think you were just at one where, it's kind of that U-shaped design, but then we're thinking about elevating a roof structure right above there. Still all open airflow for ventilation. So you feel like you're outdoors, and yet it's great for shade and for rain.
Yeah, well, that open floor plan is awesome because, that's natural air to get it cycled through, which is really important in our industry with respiratory infections and stuff.
Yeah, and she was really trying to utilize, this was kind of up in the mountains of North Carolina. So their weather there is perfect almost year round, other than the rain and the occasional snow. So having that open air, but getting out of some of the sun was ideal for her. And then kind of behind that, what Tim isn't showing is just mountains and a huge play yard in the back. That's outside as well. So pretty cool project.
This one kind of just focusing on, it's boarding. Yes, we've got play in the back, but a really efficient plan. Like if you're just really trying to maximize the dog per square foot, we're coming in the door and then you've got these 4 spines where, Shante, to your point, let's not be doing all glass fronts on these.
Yes,
because you're going to be.
You'll regret that.
It'll be really loud.
we're going to need some white noise big time.
Yeah.
So we'll just skip this one then. We'll just move on. It's kind of an interesting design. Yeah, it's definitely a little more formal, a nice, kind of a lodge look, but unique in that we've got this big indoor exercise area, huge, and then all of the runs are located off of that. Obviously, that's kind of doing that highlight thing to make that easy to see that, but a little different. some of this is whatever the clients were thinking, how they operate. Maybe they all start the morning with everybody in the play, and then at some point during the day go off to their various spaces. So thinking about kind of that day-to-day flow of your dogs is great. Tell your architect that, so he definitely understands how to set this up, if it's all access off of the play or more of a spine scenario, kind of like this.
I think working out your systems is really important when you're building a business, because it will save you a lot of money in the long run, as far as just like overall efficiency of payroll dollars, and just making, your services, be able to offer them a lot quicker if the staff isn't running all over the place inefficiently.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much that actually will impact your payroll. If you have to walk the length of an entire warehouse back and forth all day to get dogs, it definitely slows things down. That's a huge piece, the flow.
Yeah.
Good way to get your steps in.
Right?
Yeah. And this, I think I mentioned a little earlier, maybe having a direct access to grooming right off of the lobby kind of makes sense. Heading over here to the various holding areas, and then the big play area as well.
Yeah. Is there any like must-have features for today's pet parent that, you want to make sure, like if somebody's building, like what are some must-haves that they should put in into the building design?
I'm seeing that luxury component. You've kind of got that standard and then luxury, at least as far as boarding goes. And when we start showing some of those spaces, that becomes really, really popular. And it's a lot of fun too, because you can play off of the area. I have a client out in the Massachusetts area right now, really wants to play off that, shingle style, Nantucket, Cape Cod kind of a thing. And so it gets the design wheels going as far as, wow, what should that look like? Got a guy in the Kansas City area. He's a sports fanatic. And so we're going to go with a theme for these different luxury runs. And of course, the Princess Suite, that's always kind of a perennial favorite, is we need to have one of those. But it really helps in kind of that tour aspect also, so you can see some of that. It's just fun and exciting for the clients to look at. And it's, we go through all these architectural meetings and looking at outlets and everything, but once it gets to colors and finishes, I feel like our clients just like light up and they're like, okay, now I'm in.
Now it's fun, right? Well, I definitely think you need to build in a viewing wall of like you were mentioning, of some sort, where your clients don't have to actually go into any of the areas where the dogs are being, the dogs are kept, or the play areas, because that can be really disruptive to the facility, and it just could be dangerous too. So you definitely have to build in like a viewing area where they can see a good portion of the facility and the activities, but not have them inside.
Yeah. We try to think of that also. If you think about kind of like a core of a play yard, and then maybe you've got some holding areas around the outside, it's great to have windows in there, partially for staff. Maybe staff needs help, and you can just look through the glass and send a signal, and they can be right there.
Yeah.
Also helpful to know where the windows should be, right? So we had a lot of glass. We moved into a building, so we outfitted it, retrofitted it, and there was glass that was at dog level that was a problem. So if people coming in out of the lobby, you can see them, right? Versus that's up at height level, per se. Have you had people, we had this built, and I haven't seen it very often. Have you had people have a viewing deck built? So our clients could come in and actually go out and look over everything instead of having to go down and walk through it. And I'm wondering if you've seen that. Is that like a trend somewhere?
I have not. Jeff, have you seen that? The viewing
Yeah,
deck?
I just toured a facility up in north side of Chicago that actually has that, and actually has a little couple little tables and chairs up there, so people can just kind of sit and have a cup of coffee, as they drop them off and watch them play for a little bit. So it's nice because the dogs don't notice them, right? So
they don't. Yeah.
So you're not agitating one, and then all of them are agitated or fired up.
Yeah, the disruptive factor that Shantae mentioned. It's really nice because they don't know you're there. They don't generally look up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Those windows you were mentioning, Amber, it's, even when you come to, so you can cut in windows throughout wherever you want, but the door is also an opportunity to put a window in it. And they come with, 5 roughly different sizes. There's a little square, kind of the classroom, half light. You can do the full light. So basically it's a huge piece of glass. So then the dogs can see through. So just think about that too when you're designing. It's like, do you want them to see out, or is it just your ability to see in, and make sure it gets designed that way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jennifer is commenting in our chat. She was saying, she mentioned one-way glass that is popular too in the designs.
Yeah, that is a great idea. The one thing you need to be aware with that is sometimes the side that has more light tends to be the more visible side. But just a factor. It's a great tip though. One-way glass.
What do you guys?
Electronic glass, where you flip a switch and goes, and now you can't. Yeah, I know it's a little out there, but
that's like Ted Lasso.
I love that idea.
In Ted Lasso, she has, right? Is that what you're talking about? You flip the switch and suddenly the glass is smoked.
Yep. And it's like frost, and now you can't.
Oh, that's cool. What do you guys recommend for sound? I mean, we all know barking is like a huge issue, and you don't want your clients rolling up to the reception area and it's super noisy and sounds chaotic. So, how do you build for that?
Yeah, well, there's different kind of levels, and the best is really concrete block, and you would run that from the floor all the way up to the roof structure. That's ideal. And now if you want to throttle, but probably also the most costly. So maybe to kind of throttle back a little bit, there's a product called Quiet Rock, which is kind of like gypboard, sheetrock, but it's thicker and it's very, very dense. So it really cuts down on that sound transmission. And then you would insulate that wall as well. Or you can just do an insulated wall with regular sheetrock and not do the Quiet Rock, but always running that all the way up to the underside of the roof. For instance, if you're going into a tenant improvement space or an existing building that has walls and you're thinking maybe you could save those walls, they might not be insulated, or they might just go above, roughly 6 inches above the ceiling tile. That's what's common in an office setting. So you want to make sure that runs all the way up. So identify which walls are the most important, because it is cost, and make sure that those walls are built that way.
That's awesome. So there's a lot of different choices depending on basically what your budget is, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's part of it is your budget, as well as within the space. You can also think about adding some sound control, like acoustic panels. Sometimes these pictures behind me are actually they're acoustic panels. They're actually just like a photograph that you would have printed on, wrapped around. Yeah.
I've seen acoustic panels, but I've never seen them like that with the photograph wrapped around them. That's very cool.
Yeah, a couple of my previous dogs that I can remember this way, they've got my back, so to speak. So,
that's sweet.
Awesome.
Well, great talk. We're coming to time here, so thank you guys for joining us and taking a little bit of time out of your day. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you for showing all of those different floor plans. I think that's going to be immensely useful for people that are looking to, build their second or third location, or their startups and they're going to be building a new location. So last thing I'll say is, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, Grow Your Pet Care Business, please do. It's a great group to get advice and just be part of a community of like-minded business owners. I'll go ahead and put in the chat the link there. And we only have 2 rules, and those rules are be nice and no selling. If I see the selling, you're out of here. No, but but be nice. Really, we don't really want any negative bullying or anything like that. So, but we don't really see that in that group. So, all right, guys, thank you so much, and everybody out there, have a great day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.